Welcome. You are listening to Speaking Freely, broadcasting live from Sherry's attic in an undisclosed location. My name's Josh Eckel. I'm not sure if you remember me. I'm joined today by the beautiful and lovely Miss Sherry Voluntary.
I was hoping I would
Token badge.
Yeah. Black Thunder. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex Shaw.
Thanks. Gotta put my race into it, huh?
Well, yeah, that's why you're on the show.
Token black. That's
I am a social
Make
justice
sure
warrior.
everyone hears that.
Yeah. Well, we are very, very excited because we are obviously back together again for the first time in, 9 months?
Yeah, I got the band back together. I had the baby. I had both of their children.
I feel like
It was one child.
I feel like
both.
I feel like the month thing continues to go up. It was like 8 months, like 20 minutes ago. It's like
10 months. It's been 12
God,
months.
it's been a whole year.
It was 14 years ago. It's all right.
Jesus Christ.
So we're very, very excited because we're back together again, ready to put together an awesome new show talking about local Tennessee issues, national politics, all the above. We want to get back into commentary. Sherry Voluntary's been killing it on her podcast, the Sherry Voluntary Show, and Postcards from Somalia.
Right.
So definitely check that out because she's branched off and done amazing stuff there.
Not safe for work. Postcards
No.
from Somalia is not safe for anyone,
No.
but much less
I
at
listened
work.
to like 3 episodes. I'm
Very
scared of my
entertaining.
life.
Yeah,
You should be.
very, very entertaining.
What the fuck is that shit?
But you like Trump. That's where you should really be scared of
I
your life.
appreciate Trump. Put it that way.
We'll get into that. So before we jump into the news, I want to ask you both, very personal question.
Okay.
Oh, no.
How was your Super Bowl Sunday?
It was boring. I was sick.
What did you guys think about Adam Levine's titties?
Dude.
Oh, I like them today.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
bad.
I knew that was going to be...
Oh.
He
I mean, he sounded terrible. The whole...
What?
yeah, the commercials were terrible.
What?
The game was terrible. And the halftime show stunk.
Oh my gosh.
So, but I was appreciative of the Adam Levine tatas.
That's good. I'm Alex, same thing, I assume?
No, not at all. Complete. I mean, I definitely love Adam Levine. He's hot. I mean, he's super hot. And
Oh, God.
you know,
You're on record now.
I mean, that's okay. He's hot. The dude's hot. I mean, I don't like the whole California.
We
thing.
always
Across
knew,
his
didn't we?
stomach.
That was
So
weird.
That was kind of weird, but other than that, a good-looking guy. I mean, kind of mad.
tattoos are...
Kind of mad that like everyone's like praising him, and Janet Jackson gets left out.
Right.
I know, right?
But,
She showed her naughty brown skin.
yeah, like
And got in trouble, and
she
he showed
popped
his
one
naughty
nibble. She didn't pop two. She only had one.
But she had a lot more behind it.
Yeah, what? And then, it's BS. And the game,
The naughty brown skin.
but the game was fun.
Like Alex.
Oh my god. Rape on camera.
That's right. I'm excited.
I'm
This
so
is already off
happy
to
to
a
have him
spicy start.
back.
It's also off to a spicy start. I'm pumped.
That's so raped.
So what was the whole, okay, before, I know we've got news to get into, we've got stuff that we want to discuss, but what was the whole SpongeBob SquarePants drama
Dude.
that came out?
I don't
Dog.
know. I
Did
saw
you hear about
something
this?
about
Listen.
it, but I don't know what.
In case you didn't already know, we're recording this Monday, the day following the Super Bowl
the
Sunday.
Lamer Bowl.
Oh
And
my
you were
God.
telling me something about
Dude.
some internet meme where they wanted to
That's
have...
right up my alley, man. Yeah.
Explain it,
That
explain
makes
it.
me mad.
He started the meme.
All right, so you guys know Sweet Victory, right? You guys know that song.
The
right?
episode from SpongeBob.
I mean,
where he
just the
sings
song
Sweet
itself,
Victory.
but then like years later, like SpongeBob made an
Oh.
adaptation to it, and it was really great. Squidward was like, he was being the director, not director. What do you call those people? Shit. what is
Producer?
it? Not a producer. Whatever. The guy who sits in front and waves the wand.
Conductor.
Conductor. There we go.
Oh,
Okay,
waves the
perfect.
wand. Harry Potter.
That's cool. But anyway, everyone is mad because we saw photos of this like a couple days before, like a picture of the camera with the SpongeBob episode in it, and we're like, oh, they're gonna do this finally because we've been asking for it for years.
And by we, you mean the internet
Alex.
community.
Internet, Reddit, all of us that YouTubers, all that stuff. We were
People
like,
with too much
Trump
time on their
voters.
hands.
we like not Trump voters.
just kidding.
Trump voters like fuck SpongeBob. He's gay.
Right. Yeah, I actually
no.
have heard that before.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, like the Teletubbies.
That's a true thing. But yeah, man, they didn't play it. And they played Sicko Mode by Drake. What the?
I didn't understand the drama came out of it. Yeah,
That's
sure.
just stupid.
Saw
Yeah,
me
so-
on my cell phone.
Who plays Drake and then leads into some other rapper that
It was all...
that fell from the sky and exploded?
I agree with Sherry. It was all in all mediocre. But I'm not a huge fan
It
of
wasn't even
football to begin
mediocre.
with, so.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the Super Bowl. I enjoyed my time with my friends. That's what you do on Super Bowl Sunday. You party
Yes,
with your
yes.
friends. You have fun.
Right.
That was fun. The whole game was crap. I usually am there to watch the commercials, and I was let down.
Okay,
No
so
great
there was
commercial.
one saving grace. There wasn't much social justice in the commercials.
That's true.
From what I gathered, and I assume it's due to the backlash from all
Years
the social
previous.
the Kylie Jenner Pepsi ad, for example.
They still
I
had
don't
the
remember. Was that a Super Bowl ad? I can't even.
I don't know. I can't
remember.
remember that
I
one.
don't
I don't
think
think it
so.
was a Super Bowl.
They
ad,
still
though.
had the magic sky cloth though. The
Oh, yeah.
big, huge worship of
So,
Magic.
I mean, that
Spaniel.
goes back to what we were talking about on Speaking Freely even a year ago. I mean, a lot of the times the NFL is literally paid by government agencies to put on patriotic displays.
Not a lot of times.
Didn't they do that this time?
Every
though? Did they
time.
not
I
show
thought,
like
I thought for a
I thought I
while
remember
they
a
discontinued
soldier.
that practice.
I thought I remember a soldier commercial or something like that about being brave and being a
Probably.
warrior.
But there
some
was
stuff
one
like
good
that.
commercial that I remember, and that was the one with John Malkovich and my boy, Peyton Manning.
Oh,
don't think I saw that one.
You're talking about the one where they're all tackling each other?
Yeah,
Yes.
the one where John Malkovich calls the meeting and is like,
Oh, never mind.
what is this? This is not Rome. You know, we don't need this. I thought that was pretty
I
great.
thought you were talking about the cake one, where like
I didn't see the cake.
I'm not much of a. I don't really know all the football players, but like some guy like dips in the cake and the ball falls out on the ground. Everyone starts like tackling each other and.
I think you're making that up.
Nah, man, it's good. Go check it out. I even saw people that I knew.
The only thing that stuck out to me was the fact that T-Mobile decided to go scour the internet for memes and then copy and paste memes into ads. I mean, you
Yes.
like the
cell
text
phone thing,
messages,
yes,
conversations.
yes,
those
yes.
were all taken from internet memes
Yes.
from years ago. They just copied and pasted. It was pretty funny.
It's funny how memes are becoming like
Yep.
mainstream. I guess art, mainstream things that people use in their commercials, not just a thing on the internet anymore. It's like even big businesses are picking it up now. So it's like they're gonna die soon.
I don't think memes are going to die anytime
Once
soon.
big businesses come out
Yeah.
and start taking control of it, they're gonna,
I guarantee you, voluntarists and anarchists will keep the memes going
That's right.
forever.
you guys don't get that much memes though.
Yeah. Okay.
God, you guys out. They're funny, but
I mean,
they're not mainstream.
yeah, we make the best memes, though. I have to tell you,
Make some crazy ass.
we do make some crazy ass memes because we crazy ass people.
I saw one on Facebook that I had to cut my phone off. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and it had like this girl's face like laying down, and it had a whole bunch of tiny little baby parts all over it.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my god! Like I just like, what the fuck? Is
yeah,
this?
I have had PTSD from some of like the private ANCAP
Oh,
groups.
Jesus.
If they do like
Yeah.
a meme drop and they say anything goes, like you will get. No, I'm not even kidding. Like serious
yeah, I've seen
PTSD
some screwed up
stuff
stuff.
that you can't unsee.
No.
Dark
True.
side of memes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys had great Super Bowl Sundays.
Thank you.
Glad you
You
liked
didn't
them.
ask us about the puffs.
Yeah, man.
I don't want to get into the debate between Cheeto Puffs
It's 'cause
versus
you lose.
Crunchy Cheetos.
He doesn't understand. Puffs are better than the crunchy.
We won't get into that mess today. We'll save that for next week's or next month's show.
All you guys gotta do is go to Speaking Freely TN and tell us if rather you want to do Puffs or Crunchy Cheetos. Which one is
Right, at Speak
Puff.
Freely TN, Puffs or Crunchy Cheetos. If you
Obviously
say Puffs, you're
Cheese
dead to
cheese
me.
puffs.
Okay, so I want to get into some of the news. We got a little bit of local news. Before I get into that, though, I want to remind everyone of our sponsor, obviously, recuro.org, as always.
They've been with us for a long
They
time.
have been. They're a non.
Back us.
That's right. Yeah, they're a nonpartisan media site promoting liberty-minded ideas and
Ride or die.
politics. That's right. Never dropped us. They never will. Sherry, don't. Right.
Don't drop me.
They'll
Ricuro.
drop me sooner or later. I'm gonna
definitely-
put a video
You've
of
already
dead-
been dropped on
gonna
your
put a-
head.
I'm gonna put a video of dead babies out there, and I'm like, you can't have you on here anymore.
Oh, you never know, man. You keep pushing that limit.
We're all
It-
hyper.
It's a really. It is. I'm drinking coffee because I'm catching up from the hangover over the Super Bowl weekend
like classic Joshy to come in and be like, I need a coffee,
Yeah.
and
at 7:00 in
I need
the
a coffee
like-
and some McDonald's before I go record.
See these
Circles
bags under
under
my
his-
eyes? No joke. And this is gonna put bags under your eyes. So before I get into it, spill my coffee. Let's get into this first story
All
because this
right.
actually was on Recuro. So have you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are aware that the state of the law in Tennessee today is it is illegal to consume raw milk today.
right.
It's illegal to consume it. It's illegal to distribute it.
I never break the law.
That's very good to hear, Sherry. Although it's a damn lie. So
Maybe.
in 2009, there was a bill that was passed that basically created this loophole. It's called herd sharing, where you can buy a portion of a cow.
I do that
Like,
actually.
you have done. Can you explain to us a little bit about that process? Because it's basically just a loophole to get around the laws. For
Yeah,
raw milk consumption.
I haven't done it for milk, not in this state. I did it in Wisconsin, but I've done it for beef. So I have friends who are farmers, and they sell, grass-fed beef, and so we'll go in with people and like buy a quarter of a cow or half a cow,
Yeah.
depending on what we want.
And then you're entitled to the product of the cow.
Yeah.
no matter what the
Well,
product is.
it's already.
Split up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the state of the law is, from what I understand, is it's a way for them to basically, you can still consume raw milk because you own a portion of the cow.
Right.
It's considered your cow, and as such, you're legally able.
So like if it was your farm, you could go out there and get the cow, get the milk.
Which is pretty common sense.
Which-
I mean, it's a very common sense. Your cow, I think you should be able to
Get your
consume
own
the
milk.
products.
Squeeze those teats and get some milk.
Exactly. So Richard Briggs, Senator Richard Briggs from North Knoxville is submitted a piece of legislation this year. We'll see if it gets through committee, but it's causing quite a fuss. I'm sure you've heard of it. He's seeking to basically close that loophole. And so by that, he wants to criminalize raw milk consumption and make it illegal for you to do this herd sharing thing. So basically the idea being, and this is the thing that really rubs me the worst on this whole thing, is that it's basically saying the state law is saying if you own your cow, you don't have a right to consume the products of that.
What?
Yeah, because that is what the herd sharing loophole was. It said you own the cow partially, you have a right to consume it, even though the state says you're not supposed to. So this is a way to close that loophole and say, no, you can't consume it, period, whether you
No
own it or
one
not.
can.
So here's the
Typical.
thing. It is typical, and it's even more typical when you hear the rationale. It's about, I think he went on WATE and defended this bill, and I do want to play this real quick if you guys are okay with listening to it.
No.
All right. my ears-
Okay, well, you can walk out.
Walk out of your
There you
own,
go.
own attic, please.
So this was Richard Briggs talking
Lex
about...
Luthor.
You can see talking about the raw milk bill on WATE. Let's watch this. Or actually, it was Channel 6 News, Knoxville.
That you might have in the works when it comes to healthcare. Is there anything else that you're thinking of right now?
Well, the one that seems to have gotten a lot of attention is what I call the raw milk bill. And people say, well, where in the world did you get the idea to do this? But over a 4.5-year period, right here in Knox County, we had 26 people that became seriously ill from drinking a contaminated milk from 2 different farms. It was not the same place. 9 of those were children who ended up in the intensive care unit at the Knoxville Children's Hospital with this is a mouthful, a hemolytic ureic syndrome, where they go into kidney failure. They spent weeks and weeks and weeks. Some of them required dialysis. In an outbreak elsewhere, a mother actually had to give a kidney transplant to her 4-year-old daughter whose kidney function didn't return. That's why we need to do something. Raw milk is different than pasteurized milk and any other food. There are absolutely no sanitary standards on how the milk is collected, how it's processed, and how it's distributed. And that, I think, is where the heart of the problem lies.
So many people hear raw milk bill and they think that you want to cut off access to raw milk. That is not the case.
No, not at all. Not at all. I really see this as being a 3-step process. I would see, if it would go my way, is where this year we would make the presentation to the legislature so they'd see what we have thinking. They would say, they agree with me, we need to have some sort of sanitary standards for collection and distribution of the milk. Over the summer, we would have the Tennessee Department of Agriculture set up what those standards are, just like we do for pasteurized milk dairies. And then we come back next year and we repeal this cow share law, which is really a smoke and mirrors way of selling raw milk, which, by the way, raw milk has been and is illegal to sell in the state of Tennessee. Replace it with a law where we have very strict sanitary standards. We would allow maybe farm sales. We can't make the risk go away, but we sure can make it a lot safer.
I understand you're hearing from a lot of people, but maybe one was an unlikely person that a lot of people may not think that you would have heard from. Explain that again to me.
There is an organization, a national nonprofit organization called the Raw Milk Institute that promotes the production and use and use of raw milk. I heard from the president of that today, and he says, I agree with your bill completely. This cow share bill that was passed in 2009 in Tennessee has no standards. There's no understanding of what proper and sanitary production methods are. He said that was a bad bill. He said these outbreaks are not surprising. He supports me completely. He thinks that we need to institute these sanitary standards to make a product as safe as we can.
So
Dangerous milk.
I'm gonna have a milkman sitting in your pasture waiting for you to grab that raw milk.
So I mean, it's kind of typical that this kind of stuff is done with a justification of, but it's for the kids, right?
Yeah.
That you hear this a lot.
For the children.
Yeah, exactly. So he's tying it to an E. coli outbreak that nobody's tied directly to raw milk. It was an E. coli outbreak that happened a couple months ago. That wasn't, again, tied directly to raw milk. And so he's using this as a justification to go in and close that loophole, restrict it a bit. So, I think that we kind of are all in consensus here. This is just another one of those power grabs by the state to try to control people's behaviors.
Yeah. It's in the name of pragmatism, though. This is what pragmatism gets you, Joshy.
Yeah.
That
Thank you.
people take your rights in the name of pragmatism. So they're saying it's we've got to be pragmatic about this. You can have your raw milk, but you got to get it pasteurized first, because we think that somebody might have died or gotten hurt by it, and therefore you don't have a right to your own property anymore. And I would just say a big F you to Senator Briggs, because I don't give a crap what the man thinks. It's my property. You don't own me. You don't own my property.
Right.
This is supposedly the land of the free. And I don't care about a bunch of friggin' bald head, cold hearted politicians that get to tell me what I can
So-
do. Milk, I'm a big girl. I can take the risk.
Yeah, same here. And again, and if your child is taking the risk, or I'd say if your child is consuming it, it's up to the parent to make that decision anyway. It's not the state's job to get
Absolutely.
involved. So here's the thing: I do want to give Richard Briggs some credit, because I
No.
do know the guy, and I want to give him a little bit of a pat on the back as well as an admonishment. He is coming out this year in the legislature with a bill that's going to completely eliminate the amusement tax in Tennessee,
Really?
which is a tax on small gyms.
But let me just ask you
Yes,
this.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Yes.
I see the look on your face.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so why did they do the amusement tax in the first place?
That's a great question. Not something I brought.
probably a pragmatic reason.
Well,
and so
the weird thing about that law is that it only penalizes gyms that are like small.
do you know why? That's government tactics,
sounds like
picking
cronyism.
winners
Yeah,
and losers.
sounds like cronyism.
So
And make
what
money.
they're doing is they're doing they make these bills and they do a little give and take. Well, this one doesn't mean so much to us anymore, so therefore we'll look like we're giving them something. These are your rights, people. They don't have the right to take them in the first place.
Preach.
So that's the problem. You don't get to tell people how to live their lives, and we have to understand that it's not about people getting hurt. It's about people being able to take risks,
Yes.
because everybody knows that there are risks associated with raw dairy.
Yes,
They're not that
it's that's just
Bad.
that's the nature of freedom.
mean,
Like
Exactly.
this-
Freedom is not
Anything.
safe.
Everything that we do, most
tyranny
This
is
is
not
not
even safe.
If the safest place you could be is prison, right? In the sense that you would have your food provided to you, you'd be safe from people, or at least theoretically safe
Yeah.
from people trying to hurt you.
Rape cases.
Exactly. If you want to be completely safe, then don't live in a free society, because freedom inherently comes with risks.
And even in prisons, they still have rape. They have drugs. They get cell phones in there. They
Even
do
in a safe
hits.
environment, it's
right.
still dangerous.
Safe
Yeah.
with the cops all around you, and you're in a cell and you're regimented. Those people get murdered in there.
Well, those people are crazy. Those
They
people-
can- you
they're
cannot-
People, they're monsters in cages.
Yeah, it's not the government's job to nanny us or protect us.
I agree completely.
So
and
I
then
think that this guy, I don't give him any credit for giving us something back. It's ours to begin with that never should have been gone. And just like this, these people have no understanding of freedom, period.
it is challenging to get this through to some of these people, especially in the Tennessee legislature, because they just don't think in that paradigm. You find when people that go to the legislature, they don't think in that paradigm.
That's called politicians. They think about power and their own power, not the power of people to have the power of their own lives and govern themselves.
So I really kind
They'd
of
be
wonder
out of a
though,
job.
what really made him propose this bill? Like, I mean, well,
See, that
what
was
do you say?
something-
Like 56 deaths from this? Or
No, I don't think it's- I think it was,
thought-
like,
could-
less than
I could have sworn he said that he had like 56 deaths and 56 deaths. Like, you know,
I've
There
heard,
are-
okay, so I've
Milk.
heard rumors he's got ties to the Mayfield Milk Lobby. That's all anecdotal.
What?
I don't
Money,
know that
money, money,
to be
money.
fact. I've actually dug
mean-
into his campaign finance records to see if I could find ties.
We're not
back
saying
to
it's
finance.
that's
There has
the
to be
case,
something. Like, who just-
but it's not
who just
that
wakes
crazy.
up and be like, oh shit, I gotta ban this raw milk stuff real fast?
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they
He's a
get him-
doctor, so I mean that is
Oh,
one of those
shit, I'm a
things that
doctor. I
he's
gotta ban
trying
this
to
raw milk
public,
stuff real
public health,
fast.
right? Yeah.
brand breast milk because that's not
That's
pasteurized.
really
Like,
dangerous.
No, watch out. Yeah, it's a ridiculous idea, ridiculous bill, and I forget what else.
Is this his,
No,
is this his
we're on the
first
same
run?
page. We're on the same page. Say what?
This is not his first run, is it?
First run in what?
Like getting into the state senate?
Oh no, he's been there. He's been there since I think
Too long, apparently.
Yeah.
He replaced Stacey Canfield.
Ah.
Well, we didn't.
yeah.
You'd think we'd get better, and we didn't.
Oh, well, okay, so there is a shining light on the horizon. I never put this into our talking notes, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Martin Daniels introduced a piece of legislation, and I have yet to read it all, but from what I understand, it's going to be significantly curbing or eliminating civil asset forfeiture in Tennessee. So whether
Gonna
that,
happen.
I think when I looked at the bill, it's up to a threshold, right? So I think it's still there, but it's a step in the right direction. So there's
Highway
some terrible
robbery.
stuff coming up, but there's also some good
A
stuff.
bill against highway robbery. It's just legal highway robbery because they
Yeah.
have pretty fun costumes and a shiny bag.
And I don't have to preach that to this audience. They understand that is legalized theft. We spent a year talking about that on the radio, almost
Amongst-
every week. We mentioned civil asset forfeiture.
I hate civil asset. I hate. This is why I cover so many cop stories.
If you don't
and
know
why
what
I
civil
do
asset
them.
forfeiture is, go type it and look it up. It's the practice that if
Yeah.
a cop considers you using money in the commission of a crime, so you have a large amount of money,
Anything, not just money.
any asset,
Phones,
right?
anything.
cash or a car or whatever, you can seize it completely without
Right.
a
Just
court.
because they go, I think you're using this for drugs, and they take it, and then they go have fancy dinners and things like that.
And that's not a joke.
That's
they
not a
actually do
joke.
that. And
Tennessee
again,
did it.
Yeah, they actually do that. It's very true. And they use that money for other things. And you have to petition the state to get your money back and your assets back.
Right,
which
and
makes
they don't sue you. They sue the actual object. Go and watch the Vice documentary on civil asset forfeiture on YouTube.
It's not liberal brain dead garbage. It's great.
And they actually have the police officer that came up with the idea initially to do it. And you will be amazed at how terrible even a lot of cops think it is. Because it is, anybody with an ethical bone in their body understands that it is absolutely the immoral thing to do. Unethical, immoral, it's robbery.
Well, we got to give some kudos to Martin Daniel for doing his
Yeah,
thing.
let's-
So we'll see how far that bill goes. I don't know if it's been announced
Not
yet.
gonna happen.
I've seen the draft legislation, and I've heard he's supporting it. We'll follow up with details when we have them, but that's something exciting for this year. Pivoting. I haven't used that word in a long time.
Josh, he's back with the pivot.
Are you guys ready?
Gotta pivot right quick. Pivot. Which way are we
Do you have
going?
anything more you want to add to the raw
No,
milk bill?
I'm good.
Okay. By the way, if you want to learn more about this bill or read more, go to recurra.org. There's an article up about it, the raw milk bill specifically. Okay, so the drama of the day.
Ugh.
This is the drama of the day. So being Monday, I'm sure you guys have heard of the Virginia governor, that Mr. Northam, that is under a lot of pressure right now. I have a lot of opinions on this. Alex, do you think you could introduce the story as to
Yeah, because I'm black.
Yeah.
Understand.
You gotta do it.
I own this bitch now. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I really
actually
haven't.
does.
I really do not. Haven't really been paying much attention to this story. Like I've read up on it and stuff like that, but I could care less about this. Freaking.
What?
It doesn't really. Listen, the guy is now elected governor. He's pretty much a Democrat, which some are saying that he's pretty much an independent.
Well, let's give the audience some context. So the context is,
So he's in the shit pile over here, and not
listen,
the shit
like
pile
He's
over
in
here.
everywhere.
there is a whole bunch of cognitive dissonance going on in this situation and just wackiness going on. So the governor of Virginia was seen. There was a yearbook photo. What's the yearbook photos? What's up with
Like
yearbook?
30
It's such a Gen X
All
thing.
the old people got yearbook photos.
Although no,
I didn't have yearbook.
that dude, what's his face? That with the yearbook photo, the signed
Kavanaugh.
thing,
Kavanaugh,
and
yeah.
and the guy before it, Roy Moore.
Yeah, Roy Moore.
He's not Gen X. Like he's
Oh,
a
you're
boomer.
right. That is definitely a
And I think Kavanaugh's a boomer too. So don't blame my generation.
all
for
you
your
boomers
Gen
with
X,
your
I don't know,
racist
I don't know.
photos and
friggin'
your
boomers. They're
sexual
the
allegation
plague on the
photos.
planet.
So the context, and I'm sure you've heard it, but we'll go over it real quick. The picture came out. It was a picture of what looked to be him standing next to a guy in a Ku Klux Klan robe.
Right.
He's wearing blackface. Initially,
Not
and correct me
cool.
if I'm wrong on this, but initially he said, "Yeah, that's me," and then he walked it back later and said, "No, that's actually not
Right.
me, but I did wear blackface." And he said, "I dressed up as Michael Jackson."
Right.
And-
Do the moonwalk.
Yeah, it's
I mean, like, it must have been old Michael Jackson because later Michael Jackson was white. So,
Yeah, right. That's a good point. That actually does put a little bit of a
Right.
identification
I
at the
mean-
time. So he basically came out and said, he's saying he's not going to resign.
No.
Time will tell on what's going on with that. But he's under a lot of pressure. It's really, really weird. It
Well, I
seems
mean,
like
his
Twilight
whole
Zone's-
new administration is under pressure. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
not just him. He's getting hit on both sides. Him and his lieutenant governor are both getting hit. I don't know what else to do for this guy.
Yeah. Oh, the crazy thing is that he was elected and supported very strongly by the African American community
Yes.
in Virginia. They worked their asses off to get him elected.
It's a black guy that got him to run.
Yeah,
actually.
LeVar
Can't remember his name.
Stoney, I think is his name. He was an official in the Democratic Party. He's now the mayor of Richmond, but he was one of the
Yeah.
guys that got Northam to run
Yeah.
in 2007. He's now calling for him to resign, and Northam's not resigning. I do want to play this clip real quick though because I thought it was funny. Did you guys see the moonwalking clip?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Because they need to see this.
They've made a whole bunch of.
So he was asked.
I love me.
He
some
was
Michael
asked
Jackson.
if he could moonwalk. It was the most inappropriate place to answer. Let me play this clip real quick.
That's what his wife said. Inappropriate circumstance.
And you said that the competition in San Antonio was a dance competition?
Yes,
And it was that you danced the moonwalk?
that's right.
Are you still able to moonwalk?
Inappropriate circumstance.
My wife says inappropriate circumstances.
So in case you picked up on that, the reporter asked him if he can moonwalk.
Dan Quayle's got nothing on that guy. Like
Just a little
some dude that's actually going to try and moonwalk. A politician is going to moonwalk in front of the camera.
I would do it. I'd fucking do it.
I would love for him to do it. 'cause
Called
it-
me out. I got you, bro.
It
So, I mean, it
brings
is-
them down a few notches.
Here's the thing that really just shows me how insane the Democratic Party's become. Okay, it's not this, because they've always had this moral high ground for
Right.
a long time, right? They always do. They got Al Franken to resign, for God's sakes, and the guy had a picture of him.
Did they?
Sexual
The
harassment.
feminists were all defending him though, because he's done a lot of good for women when he's not harassing them.
They feel this requirement to have the moral high ground because of the fact that the right is doing the pussy grabber in chief stuff, right? So here's the
I love how
irony.
I said that so fast, so it really like you have to catch it.
Just move on. Yeah. Here's the irony of the whole thing. Literally last week, Democrat Kathy Tran, she's I think a delegate is what they call them in Virginia from the state legislature, introduced a piece of legislation that would effectively have allowed abortions up to the day of birth.
Yeah.
So let's carry this. Follow me for a second. I'm going to tie it back. I promise. Alex.
I don't like
Give me
following.
the weird.
I don't like following.
We're
I
following.
want you to watch this clip, okay? This is Kathy Tran, Representative or Delegate Kathy Tran, in a committee hearing being questioned about her bill.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs of that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would
I understand
make at
that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Okay,
Wow.
so the effective results of the bill are that if you say you have a mental health concern with having a child,
And you haven't thought about that in the 39 other weeks before.
you're on the last day
Right.
of your pregnancy, you are
You're a
legally
piece of
able.
shit. That's what it is. That's what
I wake up in the hospital bed. I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to have a baby. My bills they come out next month.
Listen,
Can we wait?
I'm not the one. You guys know me on this issue.
Push this back.
I'm not. This,
Oh, Brody Jossie.
but I mean, I'm not this crazy pro-lifer, and this still rubs me the wrong way. The fact that they would allow it.
Yeah.
The fact that
It's
they
not
would.
about the physical health of the mom or the baby. It's
Right.
about their mental. Like I hate to tell you, having a baby it makes you crazy. Like
Yeah.
I mean,
I bet
it's
it does.
hard.
I bet it is.
So you maybe should think about that before you get pregnant, or in the first couple weeks, maybe. The 40th week.
You gotta tell guys to stop, doing their thing inside of you. That's what you have to do.
It's
It's all
There it
it's
is.
all the man's fault. They need to stop and learn some tricks or wear protection.
I love how they don't want to
Thank
say
you,
it either.
Jesus.
She was trying to
You could
avoid
tell how
saying it.
uncomfortable she was with it,
Because
but that is what they wanted.
They
So-
don't want to tell people that because they know it's vile. Like,
Right.
It's vile.
And that's the irony, is they want to act like they have the moral high ground. And guys, let me see. Before this was days before this whole debacle with the Ku Klux Klan and blackface. This is what Ralph or Northam said on an interview on the radio, literally a matter of days before.
No exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you, first thing I would say, this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
And do you think multiple physicians should have to weigh in, as is currently required? She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion, and for at least two providers to be involved in that decision, because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, I would certainly support more than one provider.
The infant would be resuscitated
Right.
if desired.
So doesn't
You have a living child on a table. The infant you can let die legally,
right?
or you.
I'm thinking. I'm wondering if they mean not clearing the throat and getting it to breathe in the first place. I mean, a baby's born. I know you haven't
never
gone
had
through
it.
this
I've never-
process,
I
but
don't have
when a
birthing
baby
tickets
is
for that.
born, often they clear the throat and then it cries. Or that you have the old idea of spanking the kid on the bottom. They don't do that anymore. But that's what I think. I think they're saying they just wouldn't allow it. But that's my point, is that with the word resuscitation, like,
You're assuming-
aren't you admitting that there's a life there before? Like, and I'm not, like, I hate the terms pro-choice and pro-life because they're so polarized.
It's not
but
black and white like that.
It's
No,
not.
it's not.
I'm
And
on your side too.
I err on the side. I believe in the non-aggression principle, and I don't know when life starts, so I think you have to err on the side of caution, and so that's why I am personally anti-abortion, but I'm also anti-legislation. So, because people have to suffer the consequences of their actions.
Right.
There were, I think, less than 500 partial birth abortions performed in 2015, I think it was. I could be wrong on that, but it's not a common practice.
Right.
But this is utterly vile. Why in the world would you, at the last minute, want to make this decision? Not only, I've been through labor twice, so I can tell you that is not a time that you want to be making a lot of serious decisions. So
You've had 9
it's
months to make your mind up.
Yeah,
if
it's not necessary. If she's dying, that's a whole different thing, and
And that's what
still
I've
don't
said
love it,
before.
but-
I'm like, I get it. Like, if in the early stages you know that you're dying, you're having serious medical issues, then yes, I'm actually okay with abortion. But if we're getting closer and closer where we can pull the baby out and it can live, I'd rather you do that. Like,
right.
don't
And a
just
lot
go
of
and
times
kill.
those situations don't develop till further in the pregnancy. So that might be the
This
the
bill
case,
was
but
very
this is
clear
not
about
mental
health. It was not about physical health. It said mental health, and you know what mental health means? It's a blank check to say,
Right.
I'm going to have anxiety for this kid. Gotta
It's
tell her.
terrorism.
It really is.
It means
horrible.
it's the same as terrorism. It's like saying terrorism. What does that mean? It means whatever the government says it means.
Okay, so to the audience, this should clearly demonstrate the clown show that the Democratic Party has become. The fact that they will literally turn a blind eye to day of birth abortions for this guy. This guy was going to sign the bill, by the way. Ralph Northam made no insinuation that he was going to do otherwise. They will turn a blind eye to that, but as soon as a yearbook photo from 25 years ago, some blackface on, then they freak out. Then there's the hysterics and they have no moral high ground. They are a bunch of loons. They're a bunch of whack jobs. I can't even.
So are Republicans, though. Really,
Trust
it's
me, I agree
just
with you
different
on that.
issues.
Well, my
Yeah.
Republican friends out there.
Right.
She didn't mean that.
I did mean it. I absolutely mean it. And that's the thing, though, is like, what about forgiveness? Like, maybe the dude was a racist. Like, let's just assume that he was a racist, a blatant racist, even though there are people saying from back then, I don't ever remember him making one racist comment.
Right.
He's treated plenty of patients who are of color, and he's never had a complaint in that department.
Right.
So let's assume that he was a racist 25 years ago. I know I'm not the same as I was 2 or 3 years ago. So what about people changing? Isn't that what all this education
I do
is
know
supposed to be about?
I do know
It's
he was a
about-
baby murderer a week ago.
Right,
So I can
yeah.
tell you
You
right now
can't-
that
you can't do that,
But this,
right?
all this, racism, education, and stuff, isn't
Yep.
that about changing people's minds? So what if his mind got changed? What if he was a racist? Maybe they're upset about him lying about it or something. But
That's what I
either
heard.
way, it's ridiculous to 30 years ago go back and say this is the guy now. I
One
mean,
of the-
nobody is.
Oh,
the
you
same
can't
age.
say that. What about Hitler? What do we bring? I remember watching some video today, and somebody brought Hitler into example of that.
Hitler read books to
Like,
children.
would you forgive Hitler if he was running right now? Like, what the fuck? What? It's like,
So first off,
what?
wearing blackface is not the same as killing
That's
millions
what I
of
was
Jews.
thinking. I was like, what the
That's a little
Yeah.
extreme.
Murder is a little different than putting something on your face.
But to
yeah.
address your point, one of the leaders of the Democratic Party in Virginia was talking about this today, and I think she said something to the extent, I don't remember her name, and I can't remember the exact quote. but
Who
she said,
cares?
If he came out and told us when he ran that this was there, and he apologized in advance, it may have been a different story.
Yeah.
But no, that was.
Do you
that
remember what was
the
in
answer.
your high school yearbook?
I
or
didn't have a
college
high school
yearbook?
yearbook
I
or a
didn't either.
college
That's
yearbook.
right, you were
I was
homeschooled.
homeschooled.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I was like, when we were setting this up, and I was looking at other articles, like how, like, some people have found this like months ago, and even like the lieutenant general and his stuff, like they found it a year ago.
Yeah, so
and they
the
just
lieutenant
decided-
general is now being accused of sexual
Yeah, yeah.
misconduct. I think.
Yeah, allegation.
It's political theater. That's the point you're
I've been
making.
preaching
Yeah.
this for like freaking like last like 5 months. Like it's just like it's really have taken off since the end of last year, since the
The Me Too movement.
2018. I was
Me
at
Too movement.
I mean, like
2017,
I
right?
mean, like with all the like the political theater, the hype behind these things are really not that important. Like this was this really just outlandish bullcrap that we've been
Well,
seeing.
so you know it's interesting though because it kind of is a backlash to the exact opposite of what's coming from the right with Donald Trump. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff I like about his lack of political correctness, but half the time he's not politically correct. He's not accomplishing anything. So it's not like I'm going to praise him for being a douchebag.
I
for the
love
sake of
it.
being a douchebag.
I don't know.
I
man.
love
would
presidents
disagree on
not
that.
But it is
accomplishing anything.
it's
I
a
think it's accomplished a
backlash.
lot.
It's a backlash. It's the opposite.
And it's great. It's great and it's bad because our politicians are too focused on stardom and less about policy and actually what laws that we need to talk
And
about.
it's not getting better though.
And
it's getting worse.
it is getting worse. I mean, it's been getting worse forever. I mean
Look at
for a
AOC
long
for
time.
example. She's there's no substance. It's like a cult of personality.
Gosh, yeah.
And
Don't
that's
get me
what
started
drives
about her.
this now.
Substance. She's on a substance. That's about it. Like
Yeah.
the thing is that I just love that people want these people to rule over them, and then you get to see who they are, and you're like, wait, I don't like this guy. Maybe I don't want him, and then they want to vote for somebody else, and it's the same. Like everybody has their baggage. That's why anarchy.
I know. Well, yeah, leaders are always going to be flawed no matter
Not
what.
agree with
That's,
that whisper
That's
there.
the idea is that if the state has less power, individuals have less influence to screw up your life. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this topic because I do think it could be a can of worms that could go crazy. But specifically on the abortion talk, the libertarians are very divided on that.
Right.
Where there's
It's not an easy issue.
because there are a lot of people that believe the non-aggression principle protects you all the way up to the day of conception, and there are other people that believe it's a decision about the autonomy of a human individual body. I don't think I'm on your side with this. I think it's not as clear because really the NAP applies when you have an individual, and I don't know if there's a clear moment in which a fetus becomes an individual.
And
But I can tell you it definitely happens before the third trimester.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So-
I think the heartbeat is probably a good standard
I
to
always
think of
back
it
the
that way.
heartbeat, Bill.
But that's a personal. Again, legislation doesn't work. We already know from the drug war that prohibitions don't work, right? We know from alcohol prohibition that doesn't work. So when you make a prohibition against abortion, we had one of those already, and it didn't work.
No, yeah.
So that's the thing. And
I'm not a pro-lifer. I
abortion-
don't think we should ban all abortion.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't think that'll
the
fix
thing is
problem.
that you have three. If you want to include the fetus, the baby, as an individual, you have three individuals with three competing sets of rights and three competing desires outcome. Right, the infant, you have to assume it wants to live. It's growing to live.
Yep.
And then the father, whatever it wants, and the mother, whatever it wants. So it's always going to be messy when you have conflicting rights. It's not these biological issues. It's just one of those things that libertarianism and nothing else either addresses very well because it's a very difficult thing to figure out. But Walter Block has a great idea called eviction, fetal eviction, where if when you have the new wombs things that.
Yeah.
One of the artificial wombs. That's it.
Yeah, which is- yep.
It's
viable
not
now.
really widely available yet, but that may be a maybe at some point.
An alternative
An
where
alternative,
you could have
right.
an abortion without killing the child.
You could, give it up for adoption, or the father could take it, and it could grow in the way, whatever. We're not at that point. So you have conflicting interests.
My ambiguity comes into the fact that if you look at a fertilized embryo as the beginning of life, which I know you say you don't, but I've talked to some conservatives.
Some
who say-
do, yeah, some
who
people
say
believe
that
that.
once an embryo becomes a zygote and it's now life.
Right. Some people say sperm spilt, just jacking off.
Yeah, right. I don't.
babies.
I don't know about
Killing
that.
babies.
That's what
I thought that was some leftist talking point to make.
No.
it look
Killing
wacky.
babies.
Some Christians believe that.
But if you
that's
say
what
that, I
they
mean,
do.
even I want to say the number is close to 40 or 50% of zygotes spontaneously abort immediately after the fertilization process within the first couple weeks of pregnancy. So if you're going to make that argument, then yeah, are fertility clinics killing millions of children every day by throwing away?
Some people
fertilized
believe
embryos?
that. Some people do believe that. I mean, and
It's not a clear issue.
It's not clear. It's biological, and there's not really a good solution. But that's why I err on the side of caution.
Yeah. Good. And you guys have anything you want to add? Because the next one's definitely a doozy, too.
What's a doozy? What's the next one?
Did we come to a conclusion on this guy?
I think, I can tell you right now, we're not going to come to a conclusion because we're going to need to wait and see what happens to Governor Northam.
I'm cool with the conclusion. He's okay with me. He's done. It's in the past. I don't give a shit. He's not going to resign. The next thing they're going to have to do is impeach him. End of story.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
End of
It's
story.
it's
He's not coming
political
down.
theater. I think Alex's point was great that it's all about the political theater. It's been around. People knew about it, and all of a sudden there's something behind it that we don't see. But they don't like him anymore, and therefore they want to get rid of him or whatever.
And they're doing the same thing to his lieutenant
Governor.
governor. They're trying to oust him too. So whatever the problems may be, there's more to it than just these photos, and just let it play out.
Time will tell. Okay. Well, let's go to the next one. Let's pivot. So the next one is regarding U.S. involvement in Venezuela. So have you guys followed the
that's
developments
Mexico, sorry.
in the lovely socialist country of Venezuela?
I love
Somewhat.
socialist countries.
So as you know, they're eating their...
You live in one. That's great.
I love socialist countries.
He does live in one.
make me
Yeah.
That's right.
so
We do. All of us do.
So, they're eating their dogs, they're eating their rats, they're eating
terrible.
anything they can find because they're in massive economic downturn, hyperinflation, food shortages, oil short. I mean, they're having a massive problem. So, as you guys know, they had an election in which Maduro, the current president, was reelected after a constitutional change. There were multiple changes to the format of the
Well,
constitution.
as long as it was constitutional,
Right.
Joshy.
They've been neutering the power of the General Assembly in Venezuela for several years. And so he was recently reelected as dictator-in-chief of Venezuela.
President. I think that's what.
Yeah,
they
President
call it.
Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. So last month, there were a handful of countries, the United States included in that, and some other UN associated
Whoa!
countries.
United States. Let's go back because there was a handful of countries like 4 months ago that was calling him out. Like after he got reelected, there was like a handful of countries, the very countries that we partner with, was like calling out, and U.S. did not join at all. Nikki Haley,
Did she not?
she did not give one little bit.
So there's something that's changed.
That's
because
surprising. She's a warmonger.
Right. Well, at this point in time, the U.S. government is calling his reelection false. They're saying it was
all of a
it was
sudden, by the
rigged.
way, after
Right.
after all their friends hopped on board as well,
Right.
now they're calling it out even more.
Right.
Like it's just weird.
So they're saying that Juan Guaido, I think is how you say his last name. I could be saying
Who's
that wrong.
Guaido? I don't know.
He's the one of the leaders of the National Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
He's pronounced himself president, and many
Interim
interim president,
president.
and many UN countries, U.S. included, have now said he is the rightful president.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Immediately,
it's their business.
right. We're going to get into all that. Well, immediately after that, Venezuela cut off diplomatic ties with the United States. They ordered diplomats out of the country.
How could they do that? It's not their business, right?
What?
They don't have the right to do that, to cut it off, because we didn't say it was okay.
Oh yeah, right. Thank you. You're playing the status role. I got you. So we've basically cut off ties with them, and the U.S. government is now not even acknowledging his authority. Opening conversation. I think I already know the opinion, but I'll let you guys kick it off.
I'll let Alex go first.
I believe that we should go over there and invade, take those 5,000
John
troops.
Bolton was seen multiple days ago with 5,000? He was seen with a
5,000 troops
notebook.
to Colombia.
By the way, guys, if you haven't
John
seen
Bolton
this,
was seen with the heart on because he loves a good war,
Right.
a good conflict.
okay,
gets-
so
he
I
gets all
have
hot and
I have
heavy.
a theory about this. John
That
Bolton,
mustache comes off real fast.
right?
Oh, God, I can't stand it.
I actually have a theory about this with John Bolton. Is that he was seen at a press conference with a notepad, and it was facing outwards, and he was holding it, and on it was written 5,000 troops to Colombia or something, and Venezuela was referenced.
Right.
And everyone's freaking out, saying this is pointing that
I mean, it's John Bolton,
he's
so
he's
it's
a
probably the
he's
case.
the national security advisor for the United States. So
and
that's
he's a
pretty
warmonger.
Yes. So there's all this rumor and all this talk going around about how the U.S. government is considering invading. Donald Trump said, quote, that it is an option, or it is an, quote, option, unquote.
Listen,
So
I got to tell you something because
more regime change on the
I was getting ready, to make a video for this week, and I was on YouTube doing my thing, and I caught a video of Pence, and watching the two videos of him talking about how America has this moral high ground, how we have the right, and we have like that kind of upstanding and moral commitment
They're
to
fighting
help
for
people.
freedom.
Like, listen, it was so subtle. It was scary. Like I literally felt sick after watching him.
Good,
Like,
I'm
compared
glad.
to what Trump said is nothing compared to how subtle and how easy like Pence just well that out, like going in there, taking lives, taking over another government, and then somehow giving it back to the people. Like,
don't get me wrong.
ridiculous.
I think Maduro's is definitely screwed over his people. He's a dictator. He's done, but
absolutely.
it's not our job to invade foreign countries
Well,
for
If
regime.
if we have a moral standing because of their corruption to invade their country, they have every right to invade
Yeah,
ours
yes.
And that's-
because
that's-
ours
that's
is,
a good
and
is terribly
that's
corrupt.
that's my point I was getting to. And
Sorry.
It's something that I've been that's been like on my mind for like since the situation came up. It's like there's been photos. Like the media, of course, are not showing this, but like just 2 days ago on Saturday, there was a protest against the interim president, Guaido. Yeah, Guaido is his name.
Yeah.
And there's thousands and thousands of people. I mean, there are people there that's on his side and that want to actually have him elected and try again in a couple years versus this whole shenanigan that they're going through.
I mean, and
So like there's two sides to this situation, and the fact that us being an outside country and all of our other friends, and that includes China and Russia and Chile and Colombia and all them that's on his side. It's just like, why are we even talking about this? Why are we involved in this? I get if you don't agree with the country or agree with the state or whatever, you can cut off those economic ties, which we did.
Yes.
We're no longer trading with them with their PVDSD, their private oil company, and we
Yep.
cut off their money routes because they have a huge refinery here in Texas, or not here in Texas.
It is not a national security
US?
threat
Yeah.
for their country to.
It's not.
No,
It's not a threat.
Really not.
But-
And people are like, well, what about and when people involve China
what if?
and Russia? They're like, well, did you not see Russia just flew like 10 billion worth of gold to Venezuela, and now they have like military equipment? The Venezuelans are now the Russians are in our backyard.
I think it's interesting that people, the United States government thinks it's okay to do regime change behind the scenes. And then like now they're really all hot and bothered for it because, hey, we can do this one publicly and we can get people behind it.
And it's both sides too. So it's not just one Republican. Like I read this article in Huffington Post. It's like the president, the crazy president or something like that. How terrible it is. But at least we agree on this one idea to save the Venezuelan people.
And guess
No, I
what
mean-
they have? Oil.
Lots and lots.
No,
Government-owned oil, so it's even easier.
Yeah. I think, too, it comes down to the idea that, the majority rules is a terrible, terrible idea.
But the majority-
democracy is a terrible idea.
well, we're not supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a republic.
Right, but
That's the
we're
idea.
talking about Venezuela.
Oh yeah. Well,
And, I mean, we have we have a majority rule system, right? So we are a democratic republic, which means there's democracy involved.
Ish.
So either way, it may not be a direct democracy, but it's still a majority of the people
It's a Democrat, yeah.
get to say that you can't drink your raw milk. Not even a majority in that case. It's one asshole with a bald head who says it. So, he can get enough people that also are assholes behind him, then nobody can have their raw milk and not, their
raw
property
milk for
rights are
anybody.
violated to save the children. But that's the problem. It's that people think they can rule other people. And the other thing I did want to mention, and this is more cogent to
Yeah.
the situation in your opinion, I'm sure, is that there's a difference between preventative war and preemptive war.
Okay, elaborate.
So the preemptive war is there's a threat. We see them, they're on our border, they've got their troops mobilized, they're ready
Like
to
the Cuban
go.
Missile Crisis. That's a preemptive war, or could have been.
Could have been, right. So there's a preemptive war. That is when you have all the evidence is pointing that way, then you already are going to be aggressed upon, so you may go, okay. But preventative war is there's the potential, which is what we always get
basically what
involved
we've
with.
been doing for 25
Afghanistan,
or 50
Iraq, Korea, all these things. There was the potential for them to do something bad. But that's just like what we've already talked about with terrorism and what was the other word? The other thing, you can just make it whatever you want. A mental health situation.
Oh,
yeah. So it just, what does that mean? It means whatever people want it to mean.
It justifies any war.
It just
you can call it that.
exactly. So we can say this is a national security. Like that's it gets the hairs on the back of the necks of the war hawks. You know, the conservatives are all over there jacking off to we get to kill some brown people. Let's go do it.
Don't think any different. Both the Republicans and the Democrats agree on one thing, and that is that we should be fighting wars overseas. Let me give you guys a great example.
That's
so
right.
I was talking to you a little bit about this before we went
Well
off.
said,
Yeah.
Joshy.
I was talking to you a little bit about this before we went on air as Tulsi Gabbard's campaign.
Oh,
Tulsi
God.
Gabbard.
Yeah, y'all were
You are-
talking about some
You are
Tulsi
you are in
Gabbard.
love with her, and I am too.
I was gonna say
She is simply a beautiful
She's
woman,
definitely not libertarian on economics.
gorgeous
but
woman.
Yeah.
She's very attractive.
Jesus.
So she
he's toned down his rhetoric since the
That's right.
show.
Yeah, that was very subtle.
She's very attractive.
She's
I
a
find her
very moderate,
delightful.
Very
good-looking woman.
dainty and
She likes
fine.
to wear
I
those
drink a
short
cup of
dresses.
tea with that lady.
Wait, before he's like,
I'll take her to the
yes.
market and shop.
I never did that. Oh God.
Freedom, Josh.
Yeah, right. So she's the only anti-war candidate that's announced. Period. In the for the race of 2020. And
Because we certainly don't have a libertarian anti-war candidate, and Bill friggin'
hasn't-
piece of shit. Well,
He's going to be a Republican.
Yeah, I
Carrie.
know.
Calm
and
down.
He hasn't
and
announced
hang on,
yet.
We're gonna
hang
get
on.
Arvin
He
for
will
the
be
presidential.
anti-war, and he will
He's
be
anti-war.
anti-war.
I know. I bet.
Bill Weld will be anti-war.
yeah, he'll be anti-war enough until there's a war that he wants to fight. Come along.
That's a whole.
He's on the
nother
Council for Foreign Relations.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
so
Or he was. Is he still now? Let's not get into that. Okay, the Tulsi Gabbard's getting attacked by the left, getting attacked and smeared by the Democratic establishment because
Right.
of her anti-war policies. There are people calling her a Russian shill. There are people saying that it's the same thing that they did
Always
against Trump. It's
Russia.
that if you don't
Always
believe
Russia, right?
in U.S. foreign involvement in countries overseas, then you must be a Russian plant.
why do you hate America?
You must hate America. So again, there's no difference. The left and the right, they both do this, and war is going to be
Because
inevitable. We are in the longest war
war-
in American history, and it's not. There's no end in the horizon.
War is the lifeblood of the state.
Right.
Like that's why they all want to fight wars. That's why there's basically no anti-war left anymore.
See, but that's
Because
the thing. I feel like a majority of people are anti-war. It's just there's
No,
no
they're not.
representation in politics for that.
a majority of people are led instead of thinking critically. So they can say like, I'm against war. I don't think we should ever go to war. We don't have to fight. But I'm for Afghanistan and I'm for Iraq. And they were hurting kids over there and they're being mean to women. I mean, like, yes, those things are terrible. Like, but the thing is that we can't save the world, right? And it's not our responsibility. All we can try and be the example for freedom or not. But we can't save everyone, and it's not our responsibility. And it's wrong because we've created more damage, more problems on the world stage by trying to police the world. But it's not even about that. That's the thing.
I
It's
mean, many of the
about
wars-
state power. It's about imperialism.
Many of the wars we're fighting now are a cause of other wars that we had decades ago that caused the situation to begin with.
Right.
So you don't fix a problem by doing the same thing over and over.
But the
no, but-
state has bases everywhere now.
But
There are
I'm
more
gonna
around the
play.
world.
I'm gonna play the status here because I do like being a status.
Play it.
Right.
He's gonna play
Well,
the
Yeah.
I'm gonna play the more of a status role. I haven't got my status shawl shirt yet. But
we should
it's
get
coming.
one
I do.
for the next episode.
I'm gonna get a
Shaw
status shawl shirt because I'm a
and
statist.
racist Reed.
But I will argue for the point that I disagree that that America should. Okay. I don't think that America should be involved in tons and tons of war. And I definitely think in the past our leaders have really fucked us over with playing God and playing, the global power for a while now. But now that we're in that stage and now that, we're in this crap because of our past leaders, I worry that a lot of these countries that we have I guess, that we've actually, I guess, taken over or, started a coup. These countries, these other nations that are seeing this, they're starting to go on the other side of, our enemies like Russia, like China. And
Imagine
trying to do the
that.
same
I went, and I
When
went,
you screw
but,
someone over, they don't
but,
like you
but
anymore.
here's the thing, though. I look at it in a side of, it's complicated because we could sit out here all day and talk about how bad war is, which I completely agree with. But what are the things that we don't know? What are the things that the federal government is keeping away from us and all that stuff? Yes, death. Death is what they're keeping away from us.
For you.
But
That's for you, Alex.
So, can you elaborate on what you mean? I'm
I
genuinely
just
curious.
in my mind when I think about this whole situation, I know like I don't want war. I don't want people to be fighting. But I know that we're currently in a whole bunch of shit that we shouldn't be in. And what's the best way to get out?
Oh, I see
And
what you're
not
saying.
only that,
Yep.
what's the best way to get out that will cause less damage on us and that will maybe cause damage on those who have been
The best way to get out is to get your ass on the carrier or whatever your ass
fly
got
away.
there on
I mean,
and
yes,
get out.
I agree with pulling out with troops, but we still have to remember that
Pull out, Alex.
So
we're playing on the
Just like
world
at home.
stage, and it's just like we have to plan this right. I want to get out of war. I don't want to be involved with when people dying, but I do want to be involved with other nations trading and helping other
You don't
nations if we
need
to.
you don't need to be involved in war to trade.
I mean,
That's
you're right.
actually
You're right. You're
when-
absolutely right. That's what I'm saying.
remember the old saying that when it's something about when goods stop, troops enter. That's trade is a peaceful.
I want us to economically help our allies and those people who are in need across the world. I'm tired of seeing our men and women go to these random places and achieve nothing or close to nothing. So it's just
Yeah, and that's
there was
the,
nothing to achieve but the power for the state in the first
and
place,
it's ter-
though,
and it's terrible.
resources.
And I agree, it's terrible. It's a terrible thing.
The president actually said this about Yemen. If you listen to that press conference he gave about leaving Yemen,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "There's no treasure there." That's exactly the point. They all go there for the treasure. It's about
Yep.
going for the treasure. Vietnam's a good example.
Yeah.
You just go.
People,
when
it
you
doesn't
realize,
matter-
hey, we shouldn't have
doesn't
been
matter
here,
the
you just
lives
go.
lost. It's all about what we can gain.
Exactly.
From it.
And, just saying that, okay, I've royally screwed this up, so I got to stay and finish the job. That's terrible. These people, we're making them hate us. We are growing the terrorists,
Yeah.
right? Because if I guarantee you, if you blow my child up,
I'm going to come after you.
I am going to hate your guts and I'm going to do everything in my power to see your demise. But the United States, we've got to get people to back their own morality. If you think it's okay for corruption or being mean to children or women, that it's okay for people to come in and invade your country, then you have to recognize that everyone has the right to do that to the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if meddling in elections is wrong, then the United States has to stop doing it.
Guys,
But no, you guys want that to happen.
The thing that scares me the most is that I know that we'll be in for a day of reckoning.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And
That's-
so it's these
9/11 was one,
That's
according
a small
to
example of
some.
what it will be, especially if Russia and China get the authority and power that they have.
and they're
because they can do
growing.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because of what we've done, because of the bullshit we've
And,
pulled,
okay, so
they're
just-
continuously growing.
You're right. And so, but I know we're getting close to time, so I do kind of want to wrap it up. There was a quote that I thought was really great. It was from Jesse Kelly, who's this alt-right guy on the internet that does all this commentary. I don't really know too much about him other than the quote that I saw.
He might be a racist. If
Uh-oh,
you say this
better-
quote,
Okay,
you're a
yeah.
racist
You better
too.
not, better not say what he
25 years.
says.
You have
Oh,
to
no.
go through his yearbooks
Right.
and drawers.
So this is what he said. This was in light of the fact that after Trump said he was planning on removing troops from Syria and Afghanistan, specifically Afghanistan, the Senate came out and they passed a bipartisan proposal that basically said we are advising the executive branch to stay in Afghanistan.
Of course they are.
Guys, when was the last time there was a 68 vote
The last war.
success? in
The last
Senate?
war they wanted to
Never
get
been
involved
that big
in.
of a margin. So this is what Jesse Kelly said. He said the Senate can't, this Senate that can't repeal Obamacare, defund Planned Parenthood, or pass a budget. But God help you if you want to bring our boys home. They'll lock shields and fight like lions for their right to kill your sons in Afghanistan.
Yep.
That's the state of the duopoly. That is the state of Republicans and Democrats. You are going to get nothing if you continue to do the same thing. If you want to continue to have your children die, continue to vote R&D.
Yeah, I think you could have just stopped with that is the state. That is the state. That's what states do. And let's remember, I want to bring up a historical point here that James Madison, who was not an anti-federalist, he was actually a federalist, had the opinion that we should not have a standing army because that is corruption waiting to happen. When you have a standing army, politicians will use that army to go and do things they shouldn't be doing. And that is exactly what we have and exactly what has happened. So
Nope.
even a guy who was for the Fed, the state, is a guy that recognized the danger of having a standing army where there are order followers that are told to go do this, and they go do it regardless of their own ethical, the problems they should have with it. Whereas like militias, it's harder to convince someone
To go for
that
it, yeah.
is just minding their own business, and there's no threat to them. That bad things are happening in Iraq. Well, okay,
think we
I
would've-
feel bad about it, but hey, it's not. I got work to do here. But when you can order people, and my son is going to be 18 in a couple years. He just
Selective
turned 16.
services, get ready.
Exactly, and that's another issue, is that's where your ownership. They're telling you every time you have to do this crap, they're telling you who owns you, and it ain't you. It's them.
There's two things we can do now. I mean, and we'll close with this. I don't think that we're ever going to get to a place where we abolish our standing army. As soon as we do that, that is the beginning of China and Russia taking over.
I disagree with him, with Madison on that.
And I
Of course
do too.
you
I
do.
just don't. No, I
I'm a
agree with him
statist.
too because
I like limited government.
don't
I like
think we-
also having an army. So
kiss
no,
the skull.
no.
I think our country probably wouldn't be here today if we didn't have
Yep,
some degree
that's
of
just
standing army.
silly.
But that's a whole other thing.
Well.
The two things we can do right now. Repeal the Patriot Act,
Yes.
remove a lot of executive power, and require constitutional authorizations for war. Guess who supports both of those things?
Not libertarian.
Your woman.
Tulsi Gabbard. and probably Bill Weld, but we'll get to that when he announces his campaign.
He'll say he does.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we
No.
wrap up the show tonight?
Nope,
I would like to add something.
I'm
Oh, no.
always fine.
I'm glad to be back with you. You two friggin' status, but I love you.
let's-
Dang it.
let's-
Josh
tell
claims
them-
not to be a statist. I claim to be a statist.
Y'all are both
He's-
statist.
I'm
I'm straight
status.
up.
I love you,
status
but you're
light.
I like there's a government.
You're
Sorry.
smallest statists.
I just want to make
You're big S status. He's smallest.
super
status.
super big. I want
So-
everyone to be in line by tomorrow.
That's right. Again, small S status.
Yeah, it's gonna start goose stepping on this bitch. No.
So the plan is, so that you guys know, we are hoping to do this once a month. We may in the near future, if we can get into a groove, bring it into once every 2 weeks or a little bit more of a regular cadence. The last thing that we want to do is start this show and not be consistent. So first Tuesday or first Monday of every month, we're going to be recording this episode for distribution. Next one will be coming
March.
March 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I haven't looked at the calendar.
First Monday of March.
First Monday of March. So keep your eyes out for that. Don't forget to check out the website, recuro.org, where you can go back through all of our Speaking Freely archive.
Right.
It's all there, all the old
Good.
episodes.
Most of the old episodes, not all of them.
Like us on Facebook, Speaking Freely, or follow us on Twitter at SpeakFreelyTN.
Alex has a podcast.
Yes.
As well.
And he does have a
I
podcast as
do,
well.
Podcast and YouTube channel.
Plug it, boy. Plug it.
Shawdog21. You can find me there.
And I'm at Josh Eccles, so I didn't talk about personal.
You can find all my cool stuff.
The cool thing is you can find all the content on Recuro.
Yes.
That's right.
All our videos.
Recuro.org.
Weekly podcast. weekly videos.
RECURO.org.
And with
Say it
that,
nice and smooth.
we'll close it. Have a wonderful night.